क्या आप स्लो एंड मेथोडिकल सोल्स गेम खेल के थक चुके हैं? क्या आप लिमिटेड मूव सेट एंड गेम मैकेनिक्स से पक चुके हैं? और क्या आप एनिमीज को अपनी कुत्तियां बनाना चाहते हैं इंस्टेड ऑफ द अदर वे अराउंड? जी हाँ, हमारे पास है एक सोल्स गेम जिसमें ये सब करना नामुमकिन ही नहीं पर नेसेसरी है। क्या मतलब पुराने वर्जन की फुटेज शो कर रहा हूं? Announced in 2005's PlayStation 3 E3 presentation, Nioh एक ट्रेडिशनल जापानीज RPG होने वाला था, developed by वीडियो गेम पब्लिशर एंड डेवलपर कोई, जो लेट एंड ग्रेट जापानीज फिल्म डायरेक्टर अकीरा कुरोसावा की अनफिनिश्ड स्क्रिप्ट पर बेस्ड था, टाइटल्ड ओनी। नियो कोई को-फाउंडर एंड प्रोड्यूसर काउ शिबुसावा एंड अकीरा कुरोसावा के बेटे हिसाओ कुरोसावा के बीच एक कोलैबोरेटिव प्रोजेक्ट था, जिसमें कोई इस स्क्रिप्ट पर बेस्ड एक वीडियो गेम डेवलप करने वाले थे एंड हिसाओ एक फिल्म, जो उनका फर्स्ट प्रॉपर डायरेक्टोरियल प्रोजेक्ट होने वाला था। Both the film and the game एक combined projects थे जिनका टोटल बजट 3 बिलियन येन था, with a planned simultaneous release in 2006। हिसाओ कुरोसावा एंड कोई शिबुसावा ने मिलके ओनी की ओरिजिनल स्क्रिप्ट को एक्सपैंड एंड फिनिश किया, जिसमें बोथ प्रोजेक्ट्स जापान के सेनगोकू पीरियड में सेट थे, विद द प्रोटैगनिस्ट जो हाफ जापानीज ब्लॉन्ड हेयर एंड ब्लू आइड समुराई था, विद अ फादर जो एक जापानीज लॉर्ड थे एंड अ मदर हु वाज फ्रॉम द वेस्ट। In 2005, the film project was cancelled due to unspecified production issues, and as for the game, this initial JRPG version of Nioh 2004 से 2008 तक डेवलपमेंट में था, missing its 2006 release date, जिसे then काउ शिबुसावा ने internally scrap कर दिया because it did not have enough fun elements in it. Nioh was then rebooted and transferred to Omega Force, one of the internal studios in Koei, जो अपने Dynasty Warriors series and other Musou games के लिए जाने जाते हैं। We don't have enough information on this version of Nioh, but ये most likely another Musou game होने वाला था, जिसमें players war setting में different armies को हरा के battlefield को control करते हैं। A Nioh Musou game made sense considering Nioh जापान के Sengoku period में set था, एक era जिसमें जापान continuous and long running regional wars से सफर कर रहा था। This version of the game was also scrapped because Kou Shibusawa game की direction से unsatisfied थे। So Nioh is stuck in development hell. Meanwhile, in the northern part of Japan, from Yokohama to Tokyo, another video game developer, Tecmo, in mid-2000s, financial and internal organizational issues से सफर कर रहे थे। During this time, Tecmo, gaming industry के one of the most well-renowned developers में से एक थे, जिनके पास multiple financially and critically acclaimed IPs थी, like Dead or Alive, Ninja Gaiden and Fatal Frame। बड़े IPs की सक्सेस Tecmo के failed projects and HD games की बढ़ती कॉस्ट को कवर करने के लिए काफ़ी नहीं थी। इंटरनली टैक्मो ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल इशूज से सफ़र कर रही थी, जिसमें कंपनी की मोस्ट वेल नोन डेवलपमेंट टीम निंजा एंड डेड और अलाइव एंड मॉडर्न निंजा गाइडन क्रिएटर तोमोनोबु इताकाकी ने टैक्मो को अनपेड बोनसेस एंड अब्यूजिव मैनेजमेंट के लिए सू किया एंड लेफ्ट द कंपनी अलोंगसाइड मैनी टीम निंजा मेंबर्स। आफ्टर दिस इंसिडेंट टैक्मो अदर बिग जापानीज वीडियो गेम कॉर्पोरेशंस के साथ एक मर्जर के लिए ओपन थे ताकि वो अपनी फाइनेंशियल सिचुएशन को स्टेबल कर सकें। Square Enix were the first to try their hands on Tecmo, but the video game giant एक hostile takeover में interested थे instead of a friendly one, जिसमें Square Enix Tecmo की leadership को undermine करने की कोशिश कर रहे थे, while at the same time undervaluing the company. Tecmo ने obviously Square Enix का offer decline किया and went back to looking for other potential partners. On September 30th, 2008, Tecmo ने finally अपने merging partner को announce किया, which were none other than Nioh developer Koei. कोई एंड टैक्मो मर्जर एक कंप्लीट टेकओवर की जगह मोर ऑफ अ पार्टनरशिप थी, वर्किंग इन द फेवर ऑफ बोथ कॉर्पोरेशंस। कोई एंड टैक्मो रिमेन्ड इंटैक्ट, जहां बोथ कंपनीज को अपनी टीम्स, आईपीज, ब्रांड्स, क्रिएटिव आइडेंटिटीज एंड लीडरशिप को सेम रखने का मौका मिला, while also sharing resources. फॉर टैक्मो ये मर्जर उन्हें बोथ फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी एंड ऑटोनॉमी प्रोवाइड कर रहा था, एंड एज फॉर कोई वो अपने वीडियो गेम बिजनेस को कई गुना ज़्यादा एक्सपैंड कर सकते थे विद न्यू जॉनरास, आईपीज, गेम इंजन्स and teams जो एक्शन वीडियो गेम बनाने में मास्टर्स थे। On April 1st, 2009, the merger was completed and the new merged entity of both companies was named KOEI Tecmo, एक वीडियो गेम ब्रांड जो जापानीज गेमिंग इंडस्ट्री का एक बिग पार्ट है and is still going strong alongside other Japanese developers. Sometimes after the merger in 2010, Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive theme developers Team Ninja ने Nioh को फिर से reboot किया and started developing a completely new version of the game. टीम निंजा ने ओरिजिनल नियो के कुछ एलिमेंट्स को इंटैक्ट रखा, लाइक लीड कैरेक्टर के विजुअल एस्थेटिक्स एंड गेम की ओवरऑल सेटिंग एंड टाइम पीरियड, बट इट वाज नो लॉन्गर एन अडैप्टेशन ऑफ अकीरा कुरोसावा's वर्क, बट अ कंप्लीटली न्यू आईपी विद इट्स ओन आइडेंटिटी। री-अनाउंस्ड इन टोक्यो गेम शो 2015, नियो एक डार्क समुराई सेंट्रिक एक्शन आरपीजी था, डेवलप्ड बाय टीम निंजा एक्सक्लूसिवली फॉर PS4 फॉर 8 whole months. Also for one of the trailers for Nioh, सोनी की ऑफिशियल चैनल ने ट्रेलर का नाम गलती से नीनो कूनी रख दिया था with the wrong thumbnail, and people are making fun of it in the comment section, which I find really fucking funny. Also, I know ये most likely a coincidence है, but William does resemble Geralt a lot. Also in the same comment section लोग ये भी कह रहे हैं कि कैसे Nioh एक mix लग रहा है between Ninja Gaiden, Onimusha and Souls games. Foreshadowing. After 3 reboots, 3 development teams and 13 years of development, Nioh finally 7th February 2017 को रिलीज हुआ, changing the landscape of Souls-inspired games. Nioh, एक डार्क समुराई सेंट्रिक एक्शन RPG जिसमें प्लेयर्स कंट्रोल करते हैं विलियम एडम्स को, द फर्स्ट इंग्लिशमैन टू रीच जापान. इंस्पायर्ड बाय द रियल लाइफ हिस्ट्री, सर विलियम एडम्स एक शिप नेविगेशन ऑफिसर थे जो सेनगोकू एरा में लॉर्ड तोकुगावा इएसुके फॉरेन अफेयर्स, शिप बिल्डिंग एंड ट्रेड में ट्रस्टेड एडवाइजर बने, making them the first Westerner to earn the rank of samurai and being given the title of Miura Engine. William Adams' proficiency with cannons helped Tokugawa during the Battle of Sekigahara, with them being victorious and becoming the Shogunate of Japan. Sengoku era and especially the Battle of Sekigahara, Japanese history का most important event है, which defined Japan for centuries and its impact still lingers in the country to this day. Also, since मैं already Sengoku era and William Adams के बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ, I would love to recommend you guys to watch the 2024 drama series Shōgun. Based on the James Clavell novel of the same name, Shogun Sir William Adams and Tokugawa Ieyasu की हिस्ट्री का एक fictionalized version है which shows us the conflict for the title of Shogun in a more dramatized and entertaining way. It's not a show जो viewers को in conflicts and historical figures की accurate depiction दे, but does a good job in broader strokes. It is especially well regarded because of its accurate representation of time period, from its costume, set design to language, which plays a huge factor in the overall show because of its fish out of water narrative. Shogun is a show जो viewers को इसके world and vistas में instantly immerse कर लेता है thanks to its beautiful cinematography and political and philosophical conversations. It reminded me of the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, जहाँ show के most engaging parts उसकी massive battles ही नहीं but the battle of wits थे, with clashing ideologies making every line of dialogue so quotable. I would also like to mention our main cast of the show, Cosmo Jarvis, Anna Sawai and Tadanobu Asano, who did a phenomenal job playing these historical figures. That especially goes for Hiroyuki Sanada, who were both a producer and second lead of the show, becoming a guide for the accurate depiction of 17th century Japan. So yes, this is my short opinion piece on Shogun, एक show जो मैं weekly देख रहा था during its release, and yes, it is fucking phenomenal. I'm like waiting for season 2 which is currently in production, so let's see how that pans out. William Adams in Nioh obviously एक far cry है from the real life figure, because believe me, Sir Adams एक master class samurai warrior नहीं थे और ना ही उन्होंने बैटल ऑफ सेकिगारा में पार्टिसिपेट किया था टू फाइट अ ह्यूज फकिंग ओनी. नियो का नरेटिव इन सभी हिस्टोरिकल फिगर्स एंड इवेंट्स को एक हैविली फैंटेसाइज्ड लेंस से देखता है, जिसमें स्पेन एंड इंग्लैंड एक दूसरे से वॉर में बिजी थे एंड बोथ कंट्रीज एमरिटा नाम के स्टोन्स को ऑब्टेन करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं विच आर फाउंड इन जापान. बोथ स्पेन एंड इंग्लैंड एमरिटा को अपने वॉर एफर्ट्स में यूज करना चाहते थे बिकॉज द स्टोन्स हैव द पावर टू रिवाइव द डेड एंड टर्न द लिविंग इनटू ओनी. क्वीन एलिजाबेथ विलियम एडम्स को जापान से एमरिटा लाने का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट देती है बिकॉज विलियम सरशा नाम की गार्डियन स्पिरिट से लिंक्ड है हु कैन सेंस एमरिटा. ड्यूरिंग ऑल दिस विलियम को पता चलता है कि क्वीन एमरिटा को पावर एंड कॉन्क्वेस्ट के लिए यूज करना चाहती है एंड शी इम्प्रिजन्स विलियम बिकॉज ऑफ नोइंग हर प्लान. विलियम टावर ऑफ लंदन से भागने में कामयाब होता है बट इंग्लिश एल्केमिस्ट एडवर्ड कैली सरशा को कैप्चर कर लेता है ताकि वो क्वीन के लिए जापान से एमरिटा ला सके. सरशा विलियम के लिए एक फैमिली की तरह है बिकॉज एज अ किड शी सेव्ड विलियम फ्रॉम ड्राउनिंग एंड दे हैव बीन टुगेदर एवर सिंस. It's also implied कि William and Saoirse romantic partners हैं, but the game only hints at it. But considering he didn't stay with Okatsu, it all makes sense. Because have you seen that kawaii Konoichi? No man can resist her. So William जापान की तरफ सेल करता है ताकि वो अपनी गार्डियन स्पिरिट को बचा सके, but both Kelly and William जापान की सिविल वॉर में अपने आप को इन्वॉल्व कर लेते हैं, जहाँ William Tokugawa Ieyasu and Kailash की हेल्प करता है while also trying to find Kelly, जो Tokugawa के एनिमीज के साथ वर्क कर रहा है. Everything leads to the Battle of Sekigahara, जिसमें Tokugawa victorious होते हैं with the help of William, becoming the Shogunate of Japan, जिसके बाद William finally Kelly को हराता है, reuniting with his lovely guardian partner. And this is basically the overall summary of Nioh's story, which is horribly told and presented, because without any historical context, majority of the players पूरी story में confused रहेंगे, and the game doesn't do a good job at explaining anything. And I haven't even talked about things like the resurrection of Oda Nobunaga and William fighting Yasuke. Yes, that Yasuke. I wonder लोगों ने 2017 में नियो के अंदर यास्के का एज ए समुराई होना बॉयकॉट क्यों नहीं किया? He's black and a samurai. Oh, it was just grifting. And this game is made by Japanese, so yeah, it actually makes sense. Simply put, Nioh is not a game that really focuses on its story, and players should not think about it much since it is not the reason why most players would play this game. If I have to explain the entire story in one sentence, then Nioh में English sailor William Adams जापान सेल करता है ताकि वो अपनी गार्डियन वाइफू को बचा सके while fighting in a Japanese civil war and meeting other hot waifus. But William एक devoted partner है who's only interested in गार्डियनों से. Well, if you put it that way, at least he's happy. I think that counts. Let's talk about gameplay. I'm about to say something controversial, which, believe me, is not something new to me, especially nowadays. But I personally do not consider Nioh to be a Souls-like, but a Souls-adjacent game. Let me explain. Nioh definitely takes direct inspiration from Souls games, but it is very limited to some mechanics जो game के forefront में है, which is why everyone believes Nioh is a Souls-like. ये mechanics has stamina, which is called ki, losing currency on death, also known as corpse turn in MMORPGs, and bonfire. These are the mechanics which are unique. Key pulse stance, low iframe, block focused, ARPG loot mission structure, side missions, difficulty options, arcade combat, devil trigger, skill tree, multiple currencies, gambling, and the ability to use waifu skins for William. Last one is the most important. Nioh is more of an action game in the Souls mold, and it contradicts most of the mechanics of the genre. Like game में एक stamina mechanic है, but players lost stamina को instantly regain कर सकते हैं by using key pulse, जो game का core mechanic है, almost disregarding the entire stamina system in most cases. और Summoner Scandal, जिसे यूज करके प्लेयर्स डेथ पर अपनी लॉस्ट करेंसी को रिगेन कर सकते हैं विदाउट एक्चुअली गोइंग आउट ऑफ देयर वे टू कलेक्ट इट. द ओनली मैकेनिक जो अदर सोल्स गेम्स की तरह वर्क करता है इज श्राइन्स, जो बेसिकली बॉनफायर है. बट इवन दिस एड्स सो मेनी ऑप्शंस फॉर द प्लेयर, जहां वो अपनी गार्डन स्पिरिट को चेंज कर सकते हैं, अदर प्लेयर्स को समन कर सकते हैं, मेक ऑफरिंग टू द गॉड्स विच प्रोवाइड्स प्लेयर विद रैंडम ड्रॉप्स, एंड चेंज कोदामा ब्लेसिंग, जो प्लेयर्स को डिफरेंट पैसिव्स प्रोवाइड करते हैं. Nioh does not tie itself down with the fundamentals of Souls, and this is what makes it stand out from 100 other games in the genre. It controls like an action game. हर एक weapon की different move list है with combos and skills जिन्हें player customize कर सकते हैं by purchasing new moves and passives. The game encourages aggressive play जिसके लिए key pulse एक core mechanic है which becomes second nature after spending some time with the game. Because of key pulse, skilled individuals easily long combos pull off कर सकते हैं akin to something like Ninja Gaiden, which is impossible in most Souls games. The overall pacing of the combat rival करती है other action games को, जहाँ even the slowest and heaviest weapon fast feel होता है without losing its sense of power and weight. And the pace of the combat can be enhanced further with the use of passive weapon buffs, जो players को other actions में key pulse and recovery का option देता है, like dodging or changing stance on the right time to refill stamina. And speaking of stance, another standout feature in Nioh's combat is its stance system. Game में 3 stances हैं, low, mid and high, and all 3 stances changes combat in a variety of ways. Low stance fast-paced है with low stamina cost, which is good for lowering enemy stamina and breaking their guard. But it also has low damage output and is not viable for blocking. Mid stance standard stance है, which is mid in everything but is good for blocking. And high stance is the damage dealer with the slowest attacks but the highest damage output, which also takes a lot of stamina and is not good for any kind of defense. Players mid combat in stance को easily switch कर सकते हैं with the press of 2 buttons, and just like key pulse, ये combat में second nature बन जाता है, impacting the moment-to-moment gameplay. This is the base combat toolkit of Nioh, but now add multiple weapons and devil triggers over this base combat system, जिसमें Nioh players को at the same time total 4 weapons रखने की freedom देता है, 2 ranged and 2 melee, which can be switched on the fly in the middle of combat and even mid combos. I also love how you don't have to switch to ranged weapon by going into a menu or equipping them as side equipment, since वो by default base combat का part है and can be used whenever the player wants. As for Devil Trigger, commonly known as transformations, players 20 plus Guardian Spirit collect कर सकते हैं, with each of them having a different element and buff, जो William को एक different transformation provide करते हैं. And even this system is not a one and done deal, since after completing the campaign, player को एक second Guardian Spirit slot मिलता है, which can also be switched mid gameplay, giving players 2 different transformations at the same time. So yes, the entire gameplay of Nioh is all about player freedom, both in and out of combat. And its combat system पर Nioh एक new layer add करता है with its loot system, which will be a make or break point for a lot of people because of how much the gameplay of this entire game hinges upon it. Nioh is loot galore. There is a saying that Nioh is a Dark Souls in its first playthrough, but it shows its true colors in New Game Plus, where you actually find out that it is Diablo or Borderlands but swords. Game में 6 rarity tiers हैं for both all weapons and armor types, with the final tier Ethereal unlocking on New Game+++, which will be the 4th playthrough. Nioh के फर्स्ट प्ले थ्रू में the overall loot system doesn't matter much and players highest tier के armors and weapons use करके easily game को beat कर सकते हैं. But you can also make the game really easy even on your first playthrough by making a build, which I did for myself. गेम की प्रॉपर लूट प्रोग्रेशन स्टार्ट होती है न्यू गेम प्लस में, जहां प्लेयर्स लूट टियर्स के बारे में एक्चुअली लर्न करते हैं एंड व्हाट टू डू विद द एक्सेसिव अमाउंट ऑफ लूट. एज एक्सपेक्टेड प्लेयर्स के पास सारे स्टैंडर्ड ARPG ऑप्शंस हैं लाइक सेलिंग, डिसमेंटलिंग, लेवलिंग देम अप, reforging stats और combining items for better equipment. Starting with the second playthrough, ये entire loot system gameplay का एक major factor बनता है because without actually spending time on this system, Nioh most players के लिए काफ़ी punishing game होने वाला है जो cock and ball torture से कम नहीं since enemies can easily one-shot you on greater difficulties. So with each new playthrough, players actual build बनाना सीखते हैं with different tiers, stats and unique passive abilities जो character के overall playstyle को decide करता है because you can make a glass cannon build that can melt enemy HP in blink of an eye or a high damage dealing tank. You can do all of these things in your standard Souls game, but as I said before, Nioh का loot system more similar है to Diablo or Borderlands, जहाँ players को massive amount of loot मिलती है, which can be unique, or same equipment with marginal change in stats. So in greater difficulties, the game is all about build optimization instead of player skills. Because no matter how skilled a player is, if you don't have a good build, you will suffer and be tortured by the enemies. Believe me, I had the same experience in the DLCs because they are meant to be played after a new game plus playthrough since वो DLCs higher tier of gear require करते हैं and are not balanced for first playthroughs. Also, I feel like the DLCs of Nioh 1 are not good. They are just serviceable and more Nioh if you want more Nioh. So with this loot system, game का one of the most important and time consuming aspect micromanaging है and it's tedious as fuck. क्या मैंने Nioh को loot galore कहा था? Oh, no. It's actually menu galore. Menus and menus and menus and menus and menus, optimizing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of loot items. This is the most difficult aspect of Nioh, especially if you have OCD. But this was also a really fun aspect of the game, at least until you're keeping your inventory in check. But once it's filled with useless crap, it can easily take up to 30 minutes just to sort everything out. Yes, game में equipment को categorize and differentiate करने के many filters हैं, but even with those, it's just too much scrolling, especially on higher difficulties. I just hope Nioh 2 has a better inventory management system because, damn, seriously? So ये entire ARPG loot system Nioh के one of the core aspects में से एक है, and if you're a loot goblin like me, then you will find Nioh to be an amazing game. Even more so when you consider कि game का overall structure is mechanic around designed है. Compared to other Souls games, Nioh एक mission based structure का use करता है, with each level taking place in enclosed spaces that are big enough to explore with multiple pathways and secrets. ये levels moderately big हैं जिन्हें first playthrough में complete करने के लिए players को easily up to 2 hours तक लग सकते हैं, and then they can be replayed for grinding or just to fight boss again. In terms of level design, ये locations definitely other Souls game जितने complex नहीं हैं, but they work well enough. And each level में some Metroidvania-esque design sensibilities हैं, with shortcuts जो checkpoint के around loop करते हैं. Main missions के अलावा game में side missions भी हैं जो इन locations को reuse करते हैं to create short 5 to 10 minute missions with various objectives like clearing the level of enemies or an epic boss fight with some of the NPCs of the game. But replaying these same levels again and again can be boring, so to rectify that, Nioh में इन levels के harder variants भी है called Twilight missions, जो new and powerful enemies introduce करते हैं who drops better equipment. And finally, for the lovers of pure grinding and loot, अब इस एक endless floor of dungeons है in which players can defeat enemies and bosses to grind equipment and currencies. ये game mode main campaign को complete करने के बाद unlock होता है and works similar to Bloody Palace from DMC, जहाँ after certain floors players को main game में से one of the enemies से fight करनी होती है to proceed further. अब इस Nioh का final end game content है with 999 floors जो game को hardest difficulty पर beat करने पर ही fully unlock होते हैं, the truest test of someone's proficiency in Nioh's combat. See, I said Nioh is not a Souls-like but an ARPG with an outer shell that is inspired by Souls games and a core that is filled with more action than some action games. ये गेम है जो अपनी ऑडियंस से झूठ बोलता है, उन्हें लुभाता है by showing its Souls inspirations, but then it slaps the shit out of them if you play it like a Souls game. But once you don't play Nioh like a Souls game and an action game, only then the real Nioh begins. Nioh easily subgenre का one of the most complicated game है and it is not easy to get into. But if you play it by its own rule, it might just become your favorite Souls-like and Souls-adjacent game because, yes, it is just that good. And yeah, this was Nioh. I hope you enjoyed the review. Please do play this game, especially now since the series is so much popular. You'll enjoy it, especially अगर तुम्हें hard games पसंद हैं and ARPG, especially ARPG because how much the game hinges upon that entire core. But yes, go and play it. Subscribe this channel if you like the video. Just like it. Just the usual YouTube thing. Hype my videos. These videos take a lot of time to make. Just see what I'm doing. 2 lights in front of me and doing all this thing, this getup. Appreciate the content creator. But yes, I will meet you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.